It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
Welcome to 2024. This is Phil Ferguson, and of course, you are listening to the cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show. Like I said, 2024. Welcome. Hopefully you had a good 2023. Hopefully you have a better 2024. I was just thinking about this right before I started recording. Started this show at January of 2015. So does that make it 9 years now? 9 years doing this show. I had a different show before that, and I was on a different show before that. So somewhere around 11, 12 years, I've been doing podcasts. Before that, I had a website that was horrible. So I'm not even going to tell you the name of it, but I'm delighted you're here. We have a lot of stuff to cover today. Let's see, what do we have? I'm stalling here where I can open up that folder. A lot of good stuff. I am going to do a follow-up on a segment I did in the last episode about stocks versus bonds, And so we're going to talk about that just a few minutes, 10, 12, 13 minutes. A update on the SEC examination of Polaris Financial Planning, some, what should we call that, behind the scenes kind of stuff, so you can see kind of how the world works in that regard. And then the interview today is Sam McGrire. She is the outreach coordinator for American Atheists, and their convention for 2024 is just around the corner. It sounds like just around the river bend. Just a few months away, Easter weekend as per normal, and hopefully you can make it. We're going to talk about that during the interview a little bit more. One other quick thing I did want to cover, again, as I stall here. Yes, here it is. For the calendar year of 2023, the S&P 500, as measured by the Vanguard Index Fund VFIAX, the S&P 500 is up 26.24%. I don't expect that to change, but it might go up or down a little bit. You might also hear that the stock market, or the S&P 500, as a representation of the stock market, is up 24%. And if you graph it on all kinds of different programs, you can see that the price of the S&P 500 is indeed up 24 and a quarter, 24.5%. But that does not include the dividends. So when you're doing a graph, you have to make sure that you know what you're looking at, because you might be looking at the price point over time of a given investment or a given fund or stock or bond or whatever. To get the actual correct total value, you would need to add back in all of the dividends that are paid out. Now, one nice thing is if you go to Vanguard's website or Morningstar.com and you look for VFIAX, the S&P 500 index fund from Vanguard, you can see the 1 year, and any day now it'll show the 2023 year performance is 26.24, give or take. If I notice that changes by a teeny little amount, I'll update you. But a hell of a year. It follows a big down year from last year. So I guess, we're still about even, up or down a little bit from 2 years ago, but not so bad. And I know just a few months ago, I probably did a segment or two about don't panic when the market's down. You should have a portfolio that's designed to work when the market goes up and designed to work when the market goes down. And so the market was down for several months, and boy, the last 2 to 3 months of the year, the market went up a lot. So Yay us. And sometimes I'll mention this from time to time. If you are someone in full retirement or a few years out from retirement, 5, 10, maybe 12 years from retirement, with the market being up as measured by the S&P 500, 26.24%, it would be an appropriate time for you to look at your portfolio, consider rebalancing, and maybe taking 2 or 3 or 4% off the table and decreasing your stock allocation and ever so slightly increasing your bond allocation. Don't get carried away. I'm not predicting the market's going down or up, but I'm just thinking if it's gone up 26% and the normal annual return is give or take 9, 10, or 11, it had a great year. And we did for the last year, year and a half, kind of try to avoid selling stocks while they were down. Well, it's done much better. I will talk about the variation between different segments, different investments, different items that I like to use, different ideas that I have, and we'll talk about how some of them have worked in the next show or two. And of course, soon I will do the longer, full-blown, drawn-out, what-if theoretical scenario of if you've invested your money 14, 15, 16 years. Something I started, originally it was 10 years, and then each year I've just added another year to it to show you the difference between a balanced portfolio, a stock-only portfolio, three-legged stool portfolio, and something along the lines of the Polaris plan. So we'll get into that. I think I mentioned, yes, we're going to talk about my visit with my examination with the SEC and how that's basically done. Got a segment on that. And I don't know, I'm just prattling on. So we're going to take a quick break, do something fun, and we'll get into the meaty part of the show, and we'll talk to Sam for a while, and I'll come back on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
Pace e lunga vita.
Lunga vita e prosperità.
The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions. Well, here it is. I've got a little follow-up from, I think, the last episode. It was a segment basically that I called Stocks versus Bond Investing article. You'll have to go back and listen to it. I was quite harsh, and I stand by it, how harsh I was on the authors of the articles that tried to summarize a new bit of research. Part of it is the way the research was presented, but clearly the author, at least the second one that I read, really didn't understand the material that they were covering. So the gist of that complaint stands, in my opinion. After reading and then skimming the full research document, but I do have a little bit more comfort, I guess, in what the researchers were trying to do and how they went about it. And basically their conclusion of the things that they compared, the 8 different things that they compared, that 50% U.S. stocks and 50% international stocks based on 2,500 years of developed countries, 38 different countries, that the best result they had on average running all these analyses, and I don't want to get in too many details, and they had a lot of math above my level for sure in some parts of it. The 50% domestic and 50% international won. And it's still a kind of a duh thing, especially once I fully understood the things that they compared it to. Although I do feel better about my strategies and my ideas than ever before. So here are some of the things that they compared in this study. first thing, number one, was target date funds. They used a variety of target date funds. I've done multiple long segments on target date funds and some of their strengths and weaknesses, mostly weaknesses. And I also have to be careful every time I mention one of these things, and this is going to apply for all 8 of these. When I mention them, and I might point out their weaknesses or that they're subpar, it doesn't mean it's horrific and should never be used. You could find yourself in a position, especially with an employer plan, where the target date fund might be the single best option available to you. And of course, I have to say, none of this is personalized investment advice. Okay, so target date funds generally start off with mostly stocks, mix of domestic and international. They start putting in bonds, and as time goes on, they put in more and more and more and more bonds. And generally, they put in way more bonds than I ever think would be practical or productive or useful for you, the investor. So they're comparing to something that, to me, is kind of like a nonsensically underperforming kind of thing. So target date funds do not work. The next strategy, a couple things that drive this. They assume you save from 25 to 65. You have 40 years of saving. You save 10% per year. And then when you hit 65, you start taking out money at 4%. Okay, and whatever strategy you're using, that's the one and only strategy you use during that entire time frame. Stupid. I hope advisors aren't recommending that, but I could see that it would be the case. That's definitely one of the themes of this research, is they're assuming that investment advisors or investors, whatever, pick one of these, and that's what they always do, because that's how you run the data. So they're kind of handicapped by that. The other thing, I could not find anything to change my mind. I think when they talk about taking out 4% per year in retirement, the 4% rule is that they assume that you take out, that 4% across all investment categories, regardless of recent performance. That might be one of the single biggest misses in this whole fucking research project, because that's moronic. I think that's moronic. But maybe most people do that. Maybe most advisors do that. And they don't employ the ideas that I have of this clarity and granularity, I like to call it, where you go and pick and choose. So they're not doing any of that, which I think makes any of these possibilities look terribly bad. Anyway, I digress. Number one, target date funds. Number two is balanced. And in this strategy, you have 60% domestic U.S. stocks and 40% bonds. I didn't find, and I got to the point where I was skimming, so I don't know exactly what they call bonds, what mix they're using. But the problem with this strategy, while that might work in retirement, when you're 25, and again, according to me, secondo me is the Italian phrase, this is stupid if you're 25. Having 40% of your money in bonds and making 2 or 3 or 4% per year for the next 40 years, of course you're going to underperform. That's a bad idea. Number 3 is also balanced with 40% in bonds, but then the stocks are split 30% domestic and 30% international. You get very similar dramatic underperformance. Next category, number 4, is age-based. And I hope nobody still uses this, but here it is. They claim a lot of advisors use it, and so they included this in this category, number 4, which they abbreviate, the short title is age-based investing, where your percentage of stocks and bonds is determined by your age. And so the basic thing is it's your age minus 20% is how much you should have in bonds. So if you're 20 years old, your age is 20, minus 20%, minus 20, that's the percentage that you then get. 0% should be in bonds. I'm okay with that. When you get to 40, it's 40 minus 20, and they're saying you should have 20% of your money in bonds already when you're the age of 40. No. Again, hey, professional disagreements, that's a horribly bad idea, and you're going to get underperformance. Of course you're going to get underperformance. If you're 40, unless you plan to retire at like 50 or something, probably you should have close to no bonds, a few percent, and maybe 4 or 5%, 10% if the market's cranked for a couple of years, just to kind of protect yourself from a drop. Yeah, fine, if you want to do that. But someone at the age of 60 would then have 60 minus 20, 40% in bonds. It's a little high. It's not a terrible number, but often I think people overdo bonds, which, this data is agreeing with that. So that's nice. And then they have the alternate where it's age, still the same method to calculate bonds, but whatever is in stocks is split 50% in domestic U.S. and 50% international. Again, not horrible, but meh. Fifth category is U.S. bills, T-bills, and from the age of 25 to 65, making next to nothing, very conservative, very safe, and that safety results in the highest probability you're going to go broke. So that's just a really bad idea. So, they're comparing, I think the one that wins, number 8, by the way, is the best of all these stupid ideas. Okay, so 6 was bills, T-bills. Number 7 is stocks, 100% U.S. domestic stocks. And number 8 is 50% domestic and 50% international. And so the 50% domestic and the 50% international, in their opinion, based on their data and all of the factors they're looking at, is slightly better than 100% stocks. Okay, cool. I would love to have seen some analysis where they looked at maybe every 5% variance instead of 100% domestic, 95 and 5 international, and 90 versus 10 and 80 versus 20. I would have found that much more interesting than comparing to these other categories, which are kind of like no-brainer losers from the start. And so when the authors that wrote the articles, one of which I talked about in the last episode, saying that a portfolio of half stocks and half domestic stocks and half international stocks beat all the other things. Yeah, okay, it did, but it's still stupid. It's still, if you don't know anything and you just want to use index funds, putting half in domestic and half international, better than these other ideas, fair. I can't argue the point. However, having a portion of your portfolio in some bonds so that when you have in retirement, not during the accumulation phase, but 55, 60, 65 or older, if you have a portion of your money in bonds and the U.S. stock market falls by 50%, you can do something that this study did not allow for, is you can remove $0 from stocks and take all of your money, your 4% or 5% or 6%, whatever you're doing, from bonds. Even if you have a year like 2022 where stocks and most bonds were down, it's much better to take out from something that went down 2 or 3 or 5% versus something that went down 25%. They don't, to my understanding, don't have any ability to adapt. There's not a discussion, but I'm assuming there's rebalancing. But having more things to a point that have different returns and uncorrelatedness, but yet long-term gains without a lot of crazy volatility, diversified portfolio, really good idea. A lot of stocks when you're younger, 20s, 30s, 40s, into your 50s. And for some people, having bonds in retirement, the right number might be 10%. My dad would be considered nuts by the mainstream at his age of 80, having 10% in bonds and the rest in stocks. Now, that worked out fantastically for me and my brothers. We got a larger portfolio because he was willing to take more risk, and in part because he was living on a small portion of his portfolio. 2 or 3%, not the 4 or 5 or 6% a lot of people want to do. You have a lot more flexibility if you don't really need the money. That's very helpful. So, I just wanted to follow up on that out of these 8 things that they have, in summary, if you're going to use one of these simplistic 8 strategies from 25 to 65 and then up to death, half stocks, half bonds, half domestic and half international, all in stocks is the best way to go. If you're going to use one of these 8 things that's simplistically applied to your entire portfolio from 25 years of age up to death. So I don't refute their results. Maybe I just don't like the criteria and the parameters that they had to put in place to make it more doable mathematically, how to figure this out. So keep in mind, in the long run, especially if you want to leave money to a charity or descendants, a lot of stocks and stock index funds is better than a lot of bond funds. You're going to have more money to leave behind, generally speaking. Anyway, some thoughts on that. Hope that helps.
Never felt the slightest interest in the next world. I think it's here, and I think anything good that you're going to do, you should do for other people here, and not do anything to make yourself have a happy time in the next world, No, I don't believe in religion. If you can live for other people, away from yourself, you will be happy. And if you live for yourself, you will be unhappy, and you will then not be able to sleep or do anything else. After all, we have no notion as to what the next world is, if there is one. Mm-hmm. So there's no point in that. But it's always been, I hear a lot of people saying, well, I don't know the difference between good and bad. I know totally, for myself, the difference between right and wrong. Totally. Okay. I know this because wrong makes me very uncomfortable and right makes me very happy. And I don't think it's so very difficult to know when you're doing the right thing and when you're doing the wrong thing. And I think each person, the right thing, the wrong thing varies.
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions. I'm recording this on December 21st, 2023, and it's only relevant because it's part of the story, so I had to give you the date. You're probably going to listen to this in an episode that comes out after the new year because I'm taking, Christmas and New Year's off and had no intention of recording this segment, but I wanted to do it while it was still fresh in my mind. Like I said, today is the 21st of December. Yesterday, I received an email from the SEC. Those have been following along have learned that I am in the midst of an examination that has been going on for months, and I've been casually keeping track of the time I've spent in this process, and I think it is about 60 hours of labor on my part to collect data, documents, forms, everything, give them to the SEC. And of course, I understand it's their job. They're doing what they have to do, and that's cool. I just wish they'd spend more time on things that are obvious problems. But, I got to be part of the system, and I have to be looked at. I get it. So I don't have a problem with that. They told me they have finished their letter that they're going to send me, and they want to talk about it. And this was on the 20th. So we scheduled a time for today, the 21st, and we've already had that phone conversation. And the short of it is that when it was finished, I don't know. I almost felt like they should have found something more meaty to complain about. But on the other hand, I'm giddy because despite 60 hours, it's pretty much all good. So I'm going to go through the 4 things in a summary level. You don't need to know all this detail. And again, this is some of the behind the scenes of how this stuff works, so I like to share that. The first one that they had a beef about, and fair enough, but again, in the laws for registered investment advisor, it says that you have to maintain a general ledger or equivalent documents. I went with or equivalent documents, and so I could document every fee that I collected, every tax that I paid, every penny spent for the business envelopes, stamps, a new computer every few years. All of that stuff, I had that, but it wasn't in the form of a general ledger. And so item 1 is they're pretty much insisting that I must have a more conventional approach to accounting, giving them stacks of documents or data tables or my spreadsheets is not really what they want to see. They want to see a general ledger. So I will be exploring and learning more about accounting software. I do have some very basic accountant understanding from when I got my master's in business administration, 92, holy shit, 30 years ago. So I have to bone up on that, get some software. If you have any brilliant software ideas, I know there's some free stuff and there's some pay stuff, but my accounting is going to be profoundly simple. It's going to be, here's the 4 times a year I did my billing, and here's the 4 amounts. Here's the money I sent to different government agencies for taxes, and then here's the money I put in my 401k and my pension plan, and then here's money that goes to Phil. So it's really that simple, but I'll be able to click a button and, or a drop-down menu or whatever, and say print general ledger, and it'll print out. It'll take a few minutes, maybe a couple hours to set it up, I think. But any wisdom on what program I should use for my situation is welcomed. You can email me, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. So that's going to be easy fix. Number 2, they included in this letter the fact that I did not have a document called the CRS, or also known as the ADV Part 3, on my website at the date they started the examination. And that is a fact. I did not have it up. I knew I had to have it up. And as soon as they contacted me, I was like, oh shit, I've been meaning to do that. And I put it up. So they, in the letter, say that I didn't have it when it started, but I did put it up. And so that's already taken care of. The third one, oh, you'll love this. The third one, on the website, again, a problem with the website. They are, I don't know what the right word is, writing me up, a violation of the code. On my website, they interpret a sentence, and I haven't gotten looked at it. I'm sure they're right. They are interpreting a sentence that I have in there as being factually wrong or misleading. And out of all the stuff that's there, the one that they don't like is a line, something along the lines of, I am the treasurer of the Reason Rally 2016. That is factually incorrect because it's 2023 and there is no organization called Reason Rally 2016. So therefore, I cannot actually be currently the treasurer of it. And I asked, really, it's a verb tense issue that, my website is historically profoundly out of date. 8 years, 10 years. Well, probably 8 years because I probably adjusted it in 2016 because all I really need to have for the website is a website. And people go to it and go, oh, look, this guy must be legitimate. He has a website. So that's what I use it for, because I don't expect anyone who has multiple millions of dollars is going to go and look at my website or any website and go, I'm going to hire that guy. It's just not going to happen. It's not a way to build that connection. So I don't put a whole lot of time in it. And matter of fact, over the last 20 something years, literally every single person that I have paid or hired to make or run my website has flaked out. If you're thinking, hey, I'll contact Phil and I'll do the website. Nah, please don't. I'm not going to hire you. I'm going to go fix the problem. I know it's a basic level thing. I'm going to fix it. And I asked them, I said, could I say I was the treasurer of the Reason Rally 2016? And they said, well, technically that would be more accurate, but it would still give people the impression that that organization existed. So, while I don't have to, they would like it if I said that I was the treasurer of Reason Rally 2016, but I'm not now, and it doesn't exist anymore. So there. Or what I probably will do, the easy route, I'll just take that line out of the webpage because I don't care. So that's the first three things. The fourth thing has to do with policies and procedure manual. And there's a policy and procedures manual that every registered investment advisor has to have, and that's the law. And I have one. Yay. And in that manual, it says that I will have Form CRS on the website. Remember, what was that, point 2 from above? So I am getting, a little knock for not following the procedure or the policy that I have, that I will have the CRS form up, ADV Part 3. Not that you care. You can go look at it if you want. So I was like, okay. The second thing in my policies and procedures manual, it says that everything on the website will be true, but I have a statement that I am currently a treasurer for an organization that doesn't exist. So I didn't follow that procedure or policy in the manual. And so, the fourth thing is just kind of a restating of the first three things. So, okay, cool. I think that was it as far as formal things. They had a couple other ideas. One of them, in the last couple of years, there's been a material change to what's called the marketing rule and how marketing and advertising affects registered investment advisors. And that part of my procedure by them is perceived to be out of date. So I have to update that. They gave an example of Phil Ferguson, Polaris Financial Planning, does not use testimonials. So I don't have someone who comes out and says, I'm a client of Phil's and I've made a whole bunch of money. So I don't do that because it was illegal. It's now allowed under certain conditions and parameters, but my policy and procedure manual not only says I won't do it, but it's not allowed. So there's an error and it's not up to date. So I have to update that. So the four things, one, a more rigorous, slightly more rigorous accounting. Fair enough. Easy to fix. I'm going to fix it. Number two, the form that has to be on my website that wasn't, it's already fixed. Okay, cool. Number three, a line on my website that says I am the treasurer of the Reason Rally 2016, which is factually incorrect. I am not the treasurer because I'm not the treasurer and the organization is no longer in existence. So, and then a couple of tweaks to the policy and procedure manual updates. Cool. So that's it. I'm delighted. I can't tell you how happy I am that that's it. But like I said, I put 60 hours of effort, and who knows how many people worked on this on their side and how many hours they put in to come up with a couple of little things. I'm not mad at it in any way because examiners, auditors, agents, whatever, this is their job to go down a list of things to see if I'm missing anything. And I don't know about them. They seem perfectly wonderful people. But in my business working world, as an example, when the auditor comes to your department or your store or whatever business you're working in, they have to stay pretty much until they find something because nobody's perfect. I didn't have everything right. I probably still don't have anything right. But the things that they pointed out, I will address. And I have to give them a written response that I'm addressing it, how I'm addressing it, and how I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen in the future. Cool. But a great relief, because like I said, now it's December 21st. And so I can go into Christmas and New Year's without wondering what it's going to be. I know what it's going to be. And after I do my January 1st or 2nd billing, because I only do billing for clients once a calendar quarter. Once that's done, I'm going to sit with my consultants and write up a draft letter and respond to all these issues, all four, the 4 points. And that will close the books. It doesn't mean that I'm approved or that I passed. It just means that they've closed the examination. So that's all fantastic news. And I wanted to come and record this, even though it's right before Christmas, because it just happened and it's all fresh in my mind. So I'm going to wrap this up. Have a happy holiday. Or I hope that you did have a happy holiday 2 weeks ago.
mind spending 30 seconds on dark matter just for the heck of it? So when we observe galaxies, we find that they're spinning around at such a rate that stars on the edge should be flung outwards, sort of like water droplets on a bicycle wheel that's spinning fast, the water gets flung out. Yeah. But the stars aren't getting flung out. Something must be holding them in. We don't see anything that can do that, but we know gravity has the power to hold things together. So we imagine that maybe there's some matter out there that we don't see, dark matter. That's why we don't see it. It doesn't give off light. And that matter is exerting a gravitational pull, holding those stars together in these spinning galaxies. And when we make that hypothesis, it explains observation so spectacularly well that we begin to gain confidence that maybe the stuff that we haven't yet seen and we haven't yet touched or smelled yet, maybe it's real. So we build big detectors and we try to capture one of these dark matter particles. We haven't succeeded yet, but I think that we will. So this is a beautiful example of how observations drive rational thinking to explain the facts and ultimately verify it through observation and experiment that can be replicated. That is what science is.
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you're having a fantastic time in this brand new year, 2024. And we're going to start off the year with a wonderful interview with Samantha McGrire. How are you today?
I'm good, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. We've known each other for years, but now you work at AA, American Atheists, not Alcoholics Anonymous, right?
Definitely not Alcoholics Anonymous. I work for American Atheists. I'm the national field director there.
How long have you been doing that?
Here since 2019.
Oh, nice. And it's funny, in pre-show, which doesn't exist anybody, I didn't record anything, we were just reminiscing about 2016 and the 2016 Reason Rally and the fact that I was the treasurer for a very brief period of time. I am not anymore. And my listeners will have heard the segment right before this. Kind of a weird coinky-dink that I'm talking to you, and we were there together at 2016, and this happened just a day or two earlier, where the SEC was concerned that I said that I am, not that I was, the treasurer for the Reason Rally. What do you think? Are we going to have another one?
So the Reason Rally Coalition no longer exists. I was the final president of the organization and disbanded it entirely. So I suppose somebody could pick up that gauntlet, but it certainly won't be the same folks who put it on the last two times.
Yeah. Are you going to be in charge of it?
Heck no.
No, that seems like a lot of thankless work. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, no, it was a really fun and rewarding and stressful 6 months of my life. I did it as a volunteer. I was in charge of all of the volunteer coordination for Reason Rally. So we had 200 and something volunteers working across 4 days in something like 6 sites across the city or 7 sites across the city. So it was a lot, and it consumed my life for 6 months, and I enjoyed every minute of it. But I will never do that unpaid labor again.
And I think previously we talked about, oh my God, who was the guy that we kicked off the mall?
Was it Ray Comfort's group, I think?
Was it Ray Comfort?
The atheistmovie.org banners everywhere. And we figured out that it was either Ken Ham or Ray Comfort. I honestly can't remember anymore. But yeah, we had to kick them off.
Yeah, I think it was Ray Comfort. It seems too easy that it was Banana Man, but I'm pretty sure we talked about it. But that's still a highlight for me. I love telling that story where we got to go with a couple police officers and 2 guys from SWAT team or something.
Yeah. It was the SWAT guys, and they had their full gear on.
Yeah. Did they ever?
I remember correctly, you had gone over and asked them nicely to leave, and they told you that it was a public space, and you tried to explain about permits and how the mall works, and they didn't want to listen. So you came back and found me, since I was the person that had the walkie.
Yeah.
And went over and found law enforcement, and as soon as they were standing right behind us asking them to leave, they skedaddled pretty quickly at that point.
Yeah, that's a highlight for me to be able to kick religious propagandists off public property, off privately rented space, I should say. But one of the things I know we want to talk about, and by the way, you have a conference coming up in 24. And
we do.
Is that registration now officially open now that we've reached January 1st and beyond of 2024?
It is open, and you can find it by going to convention.atheist.org.
No.
And it is in Philadelphia this year. We're very excited to be there, and it is Easter weekend, so March 28th to the 31st. And it's the usual sort of convention, which I always tell people it is the most fun convention in the movement. I say that as a person who used to go to them as a volunteer and a group leader, and not just as an employee of American Atheists. I've always thought that they were the most fun.
Absolutely. Well, I got my special magical invite before Christmas because I was there's a tense again. I am a gold, Gold Life member? Is that what it's called?
Uh-huh. Yep, Gold Life member.
So I got to sneak in a little early. So in the future, everybody, if you want to, get special perks, you can always become a Gold Life member. Is that still a thing? Is it?
So it's funny because I was about to say Martina's going to kill me because we're sunsetting that.
Yeah, I thought
now
that
it's become, I forget the levels. It's like O'Hare Circle and some other levels, and they are based on yearly giving instead of lifetime giving. So that's the new scheme. But yes, there are Gold Life members, Silver Life members, and Platinum Life members that are kind of legacy. So that means that you, Phil, are special.
Yeah,
because you are a legacy member.
I'm legacy.
And we appreciate your support.
Legacy Gold, and I'm Life at another organization, which I won't mention the name of. But you've got this conference in Philadelphia. What's the hotel it's in?
It is at the Lowe's, Philadelphia, which is right in Center City, right next to City Hall. It's like a block away from City Hall. If you're familiar with Philadelphia, that is a super fun area of downtown. There's
Indeed.
tons of restaurants and bars and clubs and things going on. It's definitely the hopping spot in the city.
How far is that from the Independence Hall of Independence, and the Bell?
Yeah, that's all right there. So Center City in Old Town, it's all walkable from the hotel.
Yeah, because this is a trip, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Whether you're in the United States or from outside the United States, I would highly recommend, if your finances and time permits, go a couple of days early and check out the sites, the tourist sites, the things to see. And isn't that where they have some giant market in a train station, old train station? Is that Philly? That is Philly.
I think maybe it is.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
sure. To tell you the truth,
You're not.
I'm not super familiar with Philly, but now 3 of our staff members live there. So I'm sure that we can get many, many good tips from them on what to do in Philadelphia.
I'm just
Debbie, Nick, and Jeff all live there now.
Yeah, it's the Reading Terminal Market. I just used the Google, went in real time. That place.
Probably Reading.
It probably is Reading. My Italian kicked in. Apparently, I took the letters literally. It's like, or maybe we always called it the Reading Railroad with the Monopoly, but the Reading Terminal Market. We're going to go with that, and people can correct me. But yeah, probably, I don't know, 100 shops in there. Have you been in it?
I have not been in that.
Oh my God!
I'm sure that I will get there.
It's a hoot, and downtown Philadelphia, not necessarily where all the tourist stuff is and where the hotel is, but right downtown there's a Little Italy area, which, like a lot of American Little Italies, are now Little Mexico, because we just don't have that many Italian immigrants, and most Italians have learned English and they've just blended into the melting pot. But was one of the best gelato shops I found in all of the United States of America so far.
I believe that South Philly still has a pretty strong Italian presence down there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's funny because one of the other best gelatos I ever had in the United States was from a gelato truck, like a food truck in Moab, Utah.
You know what? Moab, Utah is a cool little town.
It is. The thing that's weird with that town, like a lot of really cool places to visit, all the people that work there can't afford to live there. So yeah.
That tends to be the way that works. I passed through on a big road trip where we dragged a 20-foot trailer behind our huge E350 diesel van with 2 teenagers and went, I think it was 6,700 miles in 21 days.
Wow. And all that on one charge.
We stopped at Moab and probably had lunch, and that was it.
Nice. Now, this conference we were talking about, late March, Easter weekend.
Yep. 28th to the 31st.
Do we have any speakers lined up? Who's known that you can disclose? Because I know it's still a few months out, but
we haven't announced them yet, so I'm not going to tell your listeners. Very sorry.
Oh no!
But we will have a good lineup like we always do, and then of course we have our usual lineup of our extra events. So we have on Thursday our pub quiz and charity game night. And Friday, we have an awards dinner and then a dance party, which we haven't done one of those in a few years. We got feedback that people miss them, so we're doing one this year. And then on Saturday, we have the VIP reception, which is always a good time where you can mix and mingle with our speakers and our board and our staff. And it's a tax-deductible partially donation, so that's good. And then after that, we have a cabaret show, which will be slightly different from what we've done in the past. We've had a lot of folks who wanted to perform for us that we felt like they couldn't, sort of do a whole hour and a half show, but it would be excellent if they could do a shorter segment. So we're going to have a few acts and mix it up a little bit, which I think will be pretty fun, honestly. I'm excited about it.
Nice. Now,
and then we have our Sunday afternoon service event where we pack a bunch of meals for the local food bank. We call it the Two Hands Working service event. And so we're always proud to kind of, I don't know what the adjective would be. You're probably better at figuring it out. But we like to make sure that we're doing this service event on Easter, and we do a lot of promotion around the fundraising around it, saying, we're out there doing good on Easter instead of just sitting home and looking for eggs.
That's right. Two hands of doing work will always do more than prayer. So there's that coolness. Conference, are any of those, I know some of those events are additional tickets. Are they limited in size, like the VIP thing? How many people can go? Is that everybody?
Yeah, no, the VIP thing we usually have in a smaller room, so it is limited. I'm not sure what our capacity is for this event. I should probably know that, but I don't. But that one is limited, and the dinner is as well. So the dinner, if you want to go to the VIP thing and you want to go to the dinner thing, definitely make sure you go ahead and get registered so that you have your spot secure.
And I know that there's a block of rooms at the Lowe's, right? Lowe's, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. How big is that block, and doesn't it normally sell out in advance?
It almost always sells out. Particularly, I know that you were just plugging Come in the City early. We don't have as many rooms on Wednesday night and Thursday night because some people don't come until Friday, Saturday, Sunday, of course. So if you're thinking of extending your stay, definitely go ahead and get it booked. And if for some reason that doesn't work, you can always email convention@atheist.org and we can try to help you get sorted there. But yeah, it always sells out, particularly those extra nights, Sunday night, Wednesday night, those ones, they always sell out.
Yeah. Well, I went ahead and got mine booked already, so I'm in. So everyone else, tough, right? But, it's one of those.
Mine does that too.
Yeah, it's funny because what I always do is I'll check because there's a special rate for the convention, and I was like, yeah, how special is that? And I went and looked on Expedia, and Expedia was $70 more a night.
Yeah.
So the special rate is special. It seems like a lot of money because it is, but inflation has not been our friend for the last couple of years.
Well, and that's always our struggle, right? Because we can get a cheaper room rate if we get some hotel out by the airport.
Yeah.
But often our members and people who come to our convention, they really want to come and experience the city that we have the convention in. And since we move it around every year to a new spot, we try to make sure that the hotel is right in the middle of the fun stuff, so that if you've never been to Philadelphia or Arizona, Phoenix, or Cincinnati, that you get that experience of being able to say, yeah, I had this cool convention downtown and I got to go out and walk around and see what was going on and visit some restaurants and do a little bit of sightseeing. And particularly in Philly, of course, there's a huge amount of stuff that you can go see.
Absolutely. It also reminds me, I was there once and met some Italians just randomly in the lobby that spoke very little English, so I got to practice my Italian. I was explaining to them how a toaster works.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you knew how a toaster worked. I'm not sure I could explain that in great detail. I was
like, when will I ever get to use the verb spingere, which means to push? But here it was. This was my moment. I could use the verb spingere to explain to push the little lever down on the toaster. So
that's funny.
Yeah, you never know when this
stuff. Was in Philadelphia or at one of our other conventions?
It wasn't an AA convention, but it was in Philadelphia. I was there for tourism reasons because it's the Declaration of Independence, Independence Hall, the Bell, the market I was just talking about, where you can go get a Philly cheesesteak. Oh my God.
Yeah.
You got to do that. But that market is a hoot because what you do, I think, this is my strategy. Are you ready? You hit it for lunch, and it's a freaking madhouse because it's actually in the city, and people come in there to dozens and dozens of places to get food. So you go in for lunch, and you get some food. When you're finished eating, you check out all the other shops. Sightseeing, shopping, whatever. Spend several hours doing that, and then get your dinner before you leave. So you get 2 meals out of it, and just really enjoy it. So that's a fantastic thing people should do to go a little early. This is one of those conventions that it's a really good place to go early, not like, where was it, Iowa several years ago?
That was before my time, but yeah.
Yeah, you're like,
I can imagine there wasn't so much to do.
Yeah, I'm in Iowa. Let's go cow tipping. Anyway.
So I will mention, you said there will not be another Reason Rally, but I do want to put out there, and I don't know if you know this, Phil, so this might be new news to you, that American Atheists and our other humanist friends in the United States are hosting the World Humanist Congress in 2026 in D.C. Speaking of other towns that are fun to come visit and go sightseeing in.
Nice. You said 26?
Yeah, it's every 3 years. It's the World Humanist Congress is every 3 years. So the last one was in Copenhagen this past summer, and at that we announced that we were hosting 2026. So that'll be really cool because it's an international conference. So folks will be coming from all over the world. So you should get a chance to practice your Italian if you come.
Excelente. Muchas gracias. Now, I don't know if are you up to speed? Do you have any knowledge on lawsuits and things that where American Atheists keeps winning again and again? Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that I don't work for AA at the top of this talk, and we had a really good, successful case in West Virginia where we had a defendant who was incarcerated there and was not eligible for parole because he had not completed his 12-step program. And the 12-step program they were offering was Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was apparently a fairly religious version of AA. And so he had refused to go through that program, and we took him on as a client and won. So they had to take that provision out of his parole hearing and ability to be paroled. And they did do that, and he was paroled. So he's been released. So that's pretty exciting.
Well, there's a just mind-blowing direct causal link. Someone was forced. I mean, everyone's forced to be in prison. No one I've ever heard of goes there voluntarily, but compelled by the state by the government to stay in prison because he's not religious and doesn't want to participate in a religious activity. So whenever someone says, what's the harm? Well, there was a pretty clear example. Someone has lost their freedom, their ability to move around and enjoy their life to the fullest because they didn't comply with some religious demand imposed on them by the government. That's delightful that we've won. It's horrific that had to come up, but what else you got?
Well, you wonder how many other folks are in the same situation, because it was obviously hard for us to find this defendant, and it's hard for us to find defendants in other states where we're looking to test similar laws. So one of the things that we're working on, not on the litigation side, but on the advocacy side, our policy side of the business, is recovery option bills, so secular recovery option bills.
Yeah.
So we had, you probably saw the one in New York that passed and then got vetoed twice in a row. And so we're going to be working on that again next year, but we're working on it in a few states now. And it's a pretty simple piece of legislation. All it says basically is that if you are sentenced to something that you need to have rehab as part of that they just need to be informed that they have the option to have a secular recovery program or whatever program. And to be fair, there's a lot of people who are religious who don't want to do Alcoholics Anonymous because it's been shown to not be very effective, honestly, with a lot of folks. And there's people who want to do more science-based and evidence-based things like Smart Recovery or LifeRing, which allow medical treatments and medical interventions that Alcoholics Anonymous does not. So that's something we're working on, interestingly, in sort of both sides of the organization, with both litigation and advocacy. So
excellent.
Be looking for more.
Any more cases where they try to impose religion on school kids or schools, children, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we're always monitoring those. Our partners over at Americans United do a lot of work with school stuff, so a lot of the time we end up partnering with them in cases. We also have, of course, a piece of litigation going on against the Department of Education. That's been a long-standing one now. It's in partnership with Secular Student Alliance and a couple individual plaintiffs. And it's the Trump administration put some things into effect and about clubs and other rulings for schools. And we hear that the Biden administration is going to change the rule so that it becomes sort of a moot point and we don't need to move forward with litigation. But we've been kind of in a holding pattern waiting for that to happen for a while now. Yeah,
it's always how that gets complicated with religion, because no one wants to look like the bad guy saying anything negative about religion. So they all get scared and nothing seems to get done. And of course, you guys do
a lot of red tape and jumping over hoops and comment periods and that kind of thing. So.
There's some big discounts for the convention if you are military, former military students, right? What is student? Is it like $50 or something?
Yeah, it's $49. It's really we want people to be able to come. We try to make the convention as accessible as we can. The main full price ticket is $300, but there's a whole host of $99 tickets. We ask if you can afford that $300, and it really helps us offset the cost for the folks who can't. But there's a local activist discount, so folks who are local-ish to Philadelphia, that pretty much includes all the mid-Atlantic states, if they're running affiliates or they're interested in learning how to run an affiliate or how to be a volunteer, we want them to come and we want to make it accessible. Military as well. We have a limited income ticket that's $99. We don't ask any questions. We don't ask for documentation. And then the student one, yes, is $49.
Yeah. And like you said, and I'll put more stress on it, if you have a decent job and you can spare $300, don't be a douche. Get the $300 ticket. It's totally worth it. I can guarantee you that it's worth it, every penny, and you're helping out the organization and helping fight legal battles. And you have involvement with state directors, right?
Yeah, that's a major part of my job is working with our volunteer state directors all across the country.
What luck that I happened to mention that idea. Tell us about state directors and where do you need state directors and how does that work?
Yeah, so our state director program has been around for a bunch of years. We have assistant state directors as well. State directors are sort of in charge of their whole state. We tell them, or we consider them our eyes and ears on the ground. Obviously, we are a very small staff here at American Atheists. There's only 10 of us.
Yeah.
So we can't have our eyes on everything in every state. So our state directors keep an eye on things. They also work with the local community groups and try to get things coordinated across the state. In some cases, they're working on advocacy stuff, so working on state level legislation. In some cases, they're, and people do whatever their interests are. So there's folks who are really interested in working for church state violations, and they report all of those. There's other people who are very interested in going to the Capitol and testifying for us on certain bills. So pretty much if you're interested in being a volunteer and are curious about finding out more about it, you can email me at smcguire@atheist.org, and I'm sure that Phil will put that in the show comments too.
I might, yes, that could happen. I actually did that for a recent show. I had links in it. It was I felt like I know what I was doing. It's kind of weird. Is there anything else about you, what you've done, any new books coming out, anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap things up?
No books. Yeah, I'm just going to say again, come to the convention. It's super fun. It's a great time. We really try to line up a really good mix of speakers on different topics. We tend to have lots of workshops and how-to, so that you come away from our convention feeling inspired to get involved in your community. That's really one of the main purposes of the convention, in my opinion. As the field director, I probably am biased, but that people come out of there and they are super excited to get involved in their community, and what that looks like is different, right? Maybe they want to start a group, maybe they want to find a group, maybe they want to be part of a group, maybe they want to volunteer as a state director, maybe they want to get involved in state level advocacy, maybe they want to run for office. We do a lot of workshops and talk about that as well. So there's lots of opportunities for whatever your interests are at the American Atheist Convention. So we hope to see you there.
And one quick time, the webpage for American Atheists and your email again, please.
Yeah, so American Atheists is at atheist.org. The convention is at convention.atheists.org. And my email is smcguire, McGuire, @atheist.org.
Excellent. Well, Samantha, Sam, thank you for taking the time to come visit us on the Phil Ferguson Show. I greatly appreciate it.
Anytime, Phil.
Well, hello. I'm so delighted you're still here with us on the Phil Ferguson Show as we're getting to the point of wrapping up the show. I know that you probably enjoyed as much as I did the guest, Sam McGrire from American Atheists. Now, what's really funny, and this is all my fault, what initiated, of course, other than American Atheists are cool and Sam is super cool and the convention is cool, I wanted to talk to her about a specific topic. We never even got to it. My apologies, Sam. And that topic is about bodily autonomy and how people should get just straight up the best medical attention that science can provide. And it should be between that person and their doctor, and that person and other family members if they care about the opinions of other family members, because sometimes we don't. But it's all about the individual, and new laws, new court rulings that severely limit different people's access to medical care based on religious reasons is abhorrent, and it needs to fucking end. And the nice thing about it is American Atheists is one of the many organizations that are fighting for the rights of individual Americans to be able to get medical treatment, medical care, bodily autonomy. It's your body. You get to decide what you do with it, not someone who reads a 2,000-year-old book and believes there's an invisible man in the sky. So you get the idea. Another reason to love an organization like American Atheists. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this show. And oh, by the way, if you're a client, you will hopefully very soon, next day or two, be seeing your invoice, because I only get paid 4 times a year. So it's an important time for me, and that's now done. A little hiccup with Schwab, but we got through it. And that is done. And of course, now in January, I will start anew, reviewing clients' accounts pretty close to one at a time, one by one, and rebalancing, reconsidering investing dividends that came through the month of December. So look forward to that. If you have any questions and you're a client, or even if you're not, send me an email, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com, and maybe we can schedule a time to talk about whatever questions you have. So I'm going to wrap up the show tonight. By the way, I'm going to a Italian dinner with some Italians. So I'm very excited about that. Oh, and the other random topic, for those of you who are keeping score, I did get a new pool pump, which some point I was going to have to because the other one was dying, but also added in a larger heat pump to heat the water of the pool. And we just got back from Chicago a couple days ago. It was 79 because that's what it was set to. And now just 2 days later, it's 84. And I have every expectation that in a day or two, it's going to be 87, 89, or whatever temperature I want it to be for the winter. So absolutely fantastic. I so much prefer, what is the temperature today for Florida? Something in the 60s. Yeah, it was almost 70 today. We were driving with the sunroof open, windows down, almost, actually now it says it's over 70. In the 70s, beautiful weather, a lot of sun, and surprisingly this time of the year, low humidity versus probable freezing temperatures and awaiting snow in some place like Chicago. So anyway, wrapping it up, I do hope to see you at conferences in the future like American Atheists. Please feel free to stop me and say hello. Until then, ciao.